What if I told you the crumbling of everything you hold dear, your economy, your culture, your very future, isn't a tragic accident of history, but a meticulously engineered demolition? In the next few minutes, I'm going to prove to you that the decline of Western civilization is not a mistake. It is a controlled burn orchestrated by a global financial architecture designed to build a new empire on our ashes. This information paints a target on anyone who speaks it aloud, but time is running out to prepare for the final phase of their plan. Look at this image, memorize that symbol. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this single piece of paper guarantees your children will own absolutely nothing. Welcome to the veil. Behind the official curtain, a different reality awaits. The official narrative, fed to you every hour of every day, is a carefully constructed lullaby. Politicians, academic elites, and legacy media pundits stand at their podiums, wringing their hands, telling you that the decay of our cities, the skyrocketing cost of living, and the fracturing of our society are simply the unfortunate byproducts of complex modern times. They demand you lower your expectations, accept a reduced standard of living, and surrender your freedoms for the sake of the collective good. But this is where their facade completely cracks. Take a hard look at the events of the last 50 years. If our leaders were merely incompetent, their mistakes would occasionally benefit the middle class. By the pure law of averages, a blindfolded archer will eventually hit the target. Yet, every single crisis, every economic downturn, and every cultural shift has miraculously resulted in the exact same outcome: a massive upward transfer of wealth and power into the hands of an unelected few. This isn't random. This chaos isn't an accident. The true term for this operation is managed attrition. To understand a crime, you have to follow the mechanism of control. The entities pulling the strings aren't sitting in a cartoonish evil lair. They are sitting in the boardrooms of Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, and the Bank for International Settlements. Let's call them what they actually are: the Technocratic Syndicate. Their objective isn't merely to acquire more money. Money is just a tool they print at will. Their true goal is absolute centralized control over human behavior. And to achieve that, the sovereign, independent Western middle class had to be neutralized. Let's stack the evidence. First, consider the deliberate deindustrialization of the West. In the 1980s and 90s, we were told that offshoring manufacturing was a brilliant move toward a service economy. We were promised cheaper goods and endless prosperity. It was a lie. The true purpose was to sever the economic independence of local communities. By outsourcing production, the Technocratic Syndicate ensured that Western nations became entirely dependent on fragile global supply chains. A self-sufficient nation cannot be easily blackmailed. A nation dependent on foreign cargo ships for its basic survival will bow to any demand. Second, observe the intentional weaponization of our currency. In 1971, the complete detachment of the US dollar from the gold standard wasn't a temporary measure. It was the activation of a slow-motion wealth extraction machine. Since that moment, inflation has been used as a hidden, regressive tax. It silently drains your purchasing power while inflating the hard assets owned by the mega-rich. They print trillions to fund their foreign interests, diluting the value of the labor you already performed. But that's just the surface. What I'm about to show you ties this directly to the sudden, unexplained consolidation of global farmland happening right now. You won't believe the connections. First, hit the like button if you think the news lies to you every day. Now let's look at the third piece of the puzzle: algorithmic social engineering. The fracturing of our culture is not an organic evolution. Tech conglomerates, deeply entwined with intelligence agencies, have deployed military-grade psychological operations against the domestic population. The algorithms running your social media feeds are explicitly patented to trigger outrage, tribalism, and division. Why? Because a population at war with itself over gender, race, and trivial political theater is completely blind to the fact that their economic sovereignty is being systematically dismantled from above. They keep you fighting a culture war, so you never realize you're losing a class war. This brings us to their ultimate mechanism: the consolidation of vital resources under the guise of crisis management. They did it with the energy grid, manufacturing artificial scarcity to drive prices up and force reliance on heavily centralized, state-controlled utilities. They did it with the food supply, utilizing environmental regulations to drive independent farmers into bankruptcy, allowing mega corporations to buy up the land for pennies. And now, they're doing it with your money, pushing us relentlessly towards Central Bank Digital Currencies. The thread tying them all together is centralized dependency. Once physical cash is eliminated and replaced by a programmable digital token, the trap springs shut. A CBDC isn't just digital money, it is a voucher system controlled by algorithms. The Technocratic Syndicate will possess the power to dictate exactly what you can buy, where you can travel, and even expire your funds if you don't spend them exactly as the state commands. Say the wrong thing online, your wallet is frozen. Buy too much meat, your carbon allowance restricts your purchases. This is not science fiction. The patents have been filed. The pilot programs are already running in nations across the globe. The decline of the West was the necessary prerequisite. They had to break the old system of freedom to build the new system of algorithmic compliance. This brings the conspiracy out of the boardrooms and straight into your living room. The inflation eating away at your life savings? That is their tax on your compliance. The censorship silencing your voice? That is their defense mechanism against your awakening. The push for 15-minute cities? That is the geographical infrastructure being laid down to keep you confined and easily managed when the final economic shock hits. Look down the timeline. Project this trajectory 5 years into the future. If this architecture of control is allowed to solidify, we are looking at the dawn of a neo-feudal surveillance state. A world where you will rent everything you need from a corporate overlord, your movement will be dictated by a social credit score, and your compliance will be monitored by artificial intelligence running on the devices you paid for. But a system this reliant on manipulation has a fatal flaw. It requires your continued ignorance to function. Remember that redacted document and the geometric logo I showed you at the very beginning? That isn't a theory. That is a synthesized framework derived from actual white papers published by the highest echelons of global finance, outlining the programmed expiration of localized wealth. It is the literal blueprint for the controlled demolition we are living through right now. The symbol represents the unholy trinity of corporate monopoly, state power, and digital surveillance. The veil has been lifted. You now see the machinery behind the curtain. The decline of Western civilization is not a tragedy of errors. It is a hostile corporate takeover of human freedom. Do not go quietly into their dystopian future. Refuse their digital chains. Build local networks, secure physical assets, and reject the manufactured divisions they use to keep us weak. The resistance begins the moment you stop believing their lies. Drop your own red-pilled insights in the comments below. Share this video before it gets scrubbed from the algorithm, and subscribe to join the resistance. Stay awake, stay defiant, and never stop questioning the narrative.